The first golden rays of the new year sparkle over Los Angeles, glinting off palm trees and luxury cars and illuminating the curious stillness that descends on sets, homes, and hearts alike. For many, January 1st is symbolic, a tabula rasa that invites hope, intention, and the perennial urge to reinvent. For Steve Burton and Michelle Stafford, two indelible fixtures of General Hospital's tapestry of epic storytelling, this year would be different. Not just a typical reset of gym memberships and gluten-free pledges, but something deeper, a collective soul-searching born of decades spent in the glare of spotlights, the rush of live audiences, and the intimate dance between scripted fiction and real-life authenticity. What follows is a creative chronicle, a blend of imagined monologue, imagined dialogue, and fictional narrative that explores, do they have New Year resolutions? And if so, what might they be? Let us begin. Steve sat in the quiet confines of Soundstage B, a half-empty cup of cold coffee in hand, eyes scanning silent rows of props that usually buzzed with activity. The new year was still tender, unmarked by the commotion of shooting schedules or fan conventions. He relished this calm, the lull before the roar. He exhaled. Another year, he thought. Another chance to be present. But what did that even mean anymore? In the mirror of his trailer, Steve studied his reflection. A few more lines around the eyes, the salt and pepper beard trimmed just right, the subtle weight of experience that pure youth had never given him. Jason Morgan might be ageless brawn, a man who shrugged off pain for decades, but Steve was very much a human with vulnerabilities, dreams, and yes, New Year resolutions. He whispered to himself, resolution number 1, be here fully, not just on set, but in life. Not just attending family dinners, but being there, phones down, eyes open, conscious of each laugh, each pause, each breath. Not just walking through another year with Michelle or co-stars, but building moments that mattered. Jason Morgan didn't speak much, but Steve had a voice that had carried interviews, panels, podcasts, and personal reflections. In 2026, he resolved to use that voice more intentionally, to speak up about causes that mattered, to mentor younger actors, to champion mental health in an industry that prized toughness over vulnerability. He wanted to normalize the messy parts of life, the doubts, the fears, the foggy days when inspiration felt distant. Physically, Steve had always been disciplined. But discipline without joy was hollow. So another resolution emerged. Resolution number 3, train not just to be strong, but to feel alive. Rather than punishing workouts, Steve imagined sunrise runs with friends, yoga sessions with laughter, and heart-pounding dance classes with his kids, moving not just for muscle, but for magic. As if on cue, Steve's phone pinged. Michelle Stafford, his friend and partner in countless scenes and unscripted moments, texted, "Coffee? I have a resolution list that needs saving, stat." Steve chuckled. He typed back, "Meet you in 10. Bring pens and honesty." And with that, he stepped into the day. Michelle sat by her kitchen window in a cozy robe, steam rising from a freshly brewed cup of chamomile tea. The sunlight danced on her journal page, where she had already begun writing, not controlled lists, but flowing thoughts. She was a creator by nature, a painter, a writer, an actress, and resolutions felt like brushstrokes on life's canvas. Most people wrote resolutions about fitness or finances. But Michelle wrote about intention, paying attention to the things that made her heart hum. Resolution number 1, cultivate curiosity. She didn't want to simply exist in 2026, she wanted to explore new skills, new spaces, new depths of creativity. Maybe pottery classes. Maybe poetry nights. Maybe languages she never finished learning. Curiosity wasn't about productivity, it was about wonder. Hollywood often demanded attention. Emails, scripts, meetings, marketing, social media, repeat. Michelle had spent years in that loop. So one of her resolutions was radical in its simplicity. Resolution number 2, protect time like treasure. This meant carving out sacred hours each week that belonged only to her, no calls, no commitments, no obligations. Time to wonder, to breathe, to do nothing and understand life a little better. She smiled. She had forgotten how powerful nothing could be. Michelle's career had been defined by nuance, playing Nina, a character layered with ambition, complexity, morality blurred between black and white. And yet, what the world saw was a polished final product. But real life was imperfect. Resolution number 3, show up imperfectly, intentionally. She resolved to post more authentic stories on social media, Not curated highlight reels, but raw thoughts, unfinished ideas, and real laughs. No filters. No armor. Just Michelle. And then came her most daring resolution, the one that felt almost reckless in its audacity. Resolution number 4, launch a passion project, no matter how unpolished. Perhaps a talk show about life transitions, perhaps a memoir, perhaps a collaborative art exhibit. She felt a pulsar of excitement, creative life force, unpredictable and bright. She grabbed her coffee and marched out the door. Steve parked at the little cafe on Sunset Boulevard, the one with golden chairs and rosemary biscuits. Michelle was already there, her notebook open like a flower in bloom. "Ready?" she asked with a grin. "Born ready," said Steve, though his grin was half nervous and entirely sincere. They began with small talk, the usual dust that friends sweep off before revealing the gems beneath. But today, there were no scripts. No cues. No cameras. Just two artists with fresh intentions and hopeful hearts. "I wrote a list," Steve said. "Less noise, more presence." Michelle nodded, stirring her tea. "I want more curiosity. More real moments." "What scares you?" Steve asked. Michelle paused. "Being uncomfortable in public. Because I feel like, as actors, we're always performing, even off stage." Steve raised an eyebrow. "So you're resolved to be awkward?" Michelle laughed, real laughter, the kind that shakes the soul. "No," she said gently, "to embrace awkwardness. To be okay without polish." Steve thought about that. A life lived only in control wasn't alive at all. "I want to feel connected rather than performative," he said. "To show up with honesty, not armor." They sipped their drinks. The world bustled around them. Cars honking, people chatting, the cafe server humming an upbeat tune. Yet here, in this sunlit corner, something felt sacred. They spoke of how their careers had shaped them, the success and struggle, the applause and silence. "People think actors have it easy," Michelle said. "But it's a weird life. You show emotions for a living, but sometimes struggle to own them in real life." Steve nodded. "Exactly. I've played tough guys for years, but sometimes it masks how soft I actually am." Michelle smiled. "Maybe that's our theme for the year, softness is strength." Steve looked at her thoughtfully. "I like that." Resolution number 5, celebrate softness as strength. They laughed again, but this time it wasn't humor alone. It was recognition, real human recognition. Not a promise to others. Not an obligation. Not social media fodder. A resolution is a commitment to growth, yes, but to truth. To presence. To vulnerability. To risk. Steve drove home that afternoon with the California sun dipping low, gold turning to pink to lavender. He thought about his resolutions, turning them over like rare stones in his hand. Be present. Speak up with purpose. Train for joy. Celebrate softness. He realized something deeper. His resolutions weren't about fixing himself. They were about knowing himself. Jason Morgan could fight enemies. Steve wanted to learn how to face himself. And so he opened his voice notes and whispered. January 1st. Day 1. I choose to be here. To really be here. He laughed at the simplicity and the profundity. Michelle arrived home, yoga mat under her arm, heart still warm from conversation. She sat at her desk and opened her journal again. Curiosity. Protected time. Imperfect honesty. Passion project. She doodled ideas, talk show segments, memoir pages, invited collaborators from her community. The paper filled with upside-down dreams and sideways truths. Then she wrote clearly. 2026 is the year I create without fear. Not perfection. Not comparison. Just creation. It felt electric. Weeks passed. Steve kept a small notebook in his pocket, not for lines, but for moments. A sunrise with his kids. A conversation with a stranger at the grocery store. A quiet evening without screens. And yes, he still worked, general hospital scenes, fan events, charity work, but everything felt measured in presence, not performance. Michelle, too, transformed her resolutions into rhythms. Saturdays for spontaneous art. Sundays for reflection. Wednesdays for call-offs from social media, replaced with nature walks. She began sketching outlines for her passion project, a creative series about life transitions in Hollywood. It wasn't fully formed. And she liked it that way. One day, they bumped into each other on set, Two actors transformed by intention.
Steve smiled.
Hey, how's the curiosity going?
Michelle beamed.
Really good. I even tried pottery.
Steve laughed. How was that? Surprisingly humbling. And fun. He nodded. Humbling is good. It means you're alive. So, do they have New Year resolutions? Yes.
But not the kind that fade by February. Not superficial goals scribbled in haste. Not lose weight or get rich or be perfect. Their resolutions are deeper. Be present with family, friends, and life, not just scenes. Use his voice with intention, for causes, for kindness, for truth. Train for joy, not obligation. Find movement that feels like celebration. Honor his softness. Let strength take the shape of compassion. Cultivate curiosity for art, life, and unexplored horizons.
Protect time like a sacred resource.
Show up imperfectly. Authenticity over polish. Create boldly without fear. Passion projects first. Maybe their resolutions mirror something in you. A desire to be less performative, more present. A longing to slow down, breathe, and feel.
A wish to create without judgment.
A hope to live a year of meaning instead of momentum. Steve and Michelle remind us that enduring resolutions aren't about ticking boxes, they are about transforming lives, one honest moment at a time. And so, as the year unfolds, may we cultivate presence, welcome vulnerability, honor curiosity, and make space for unfiltered, unedited life.